Welcome to this session of the Inclusion Infusion um, Special Needs Ministry Web Summit, brought to you by Key Ministry and PajamaConference.com. My name is Jim Huckel, and I am excited to share with you today about building a movement, conquering the four great giants. I'd like to introduce myself first of all. In 1998, my wife and I started an organization located in Central Florida, a ministry to address the needs and concerns of families facing a disability life experience. Around 2004, I was given the opportunity to lead a national coalition of disability organizations, which we had about 200 organizations nationwide, through a coalition called the Christian Council on Persons with Disabilities. Shortly after that, I led the effort to take CCPD and merge it into our organization, and we created what is now called Lift Disability Network, still focusing on families with disabilities, and as well as building a network of national ministries together. Our work is focused on elevating life in the disability family. Connect to learn, we unite in love, and we empower to lead. I wanted to take just a minute, and besides just giving my bio, to actually share with you my own journey in disability life experience, which began in the early 60s. I was about just almost 2 years old. My mom walked in one day and asked that I put my foot up so she could put my shoe on. And I reached down with my hand and I grasped my pants leg and pulled my foot up into her hand. She repeated that process, and again I reached down with my hand and pulled my foot up and put it in her hands. This obviously brought some great concern to my mom, to my folks. So that began a time of a lot of doctor's visits and tests and diagnostics that had to take place, and I was soon informed, or my parents were soon informed, that I would never walk a day in my life and that I would not live to see the age of 10. As you can see, I'm no longer 10 years old. My parents, as a matter of fact, were great people of faith, and they believed in the ability of God's creative hand to take what we have and to use it to bring glory to His kingdom. They often encouraged me with that thought, that idea, which later became the very beginning of my own personal dreams and my own personal goals to accomplish. And they were people that were confident that there was a God that could allow me to live life in a way that disability would not control, but God would control. My journey has been one of a lot of fulfillment for me. I must say that I've had the privilege of experiencing a very satisfied life, and even though disability has been very progressive for me, it's moved from a few awkward steps as a young boy trying to keep up to a young boy being confined to a wheelchair, going through adolescence, trying to understand what all the impact of disability was upon my life. It moved from that to seeking to achieve my goals by going to college and then launching a career. In the early 80s, I began traveling as a minister. I had finished school and I traveled throughout the United States for over 15 years as a speaker and vocalist, sharing in churches and organizations, and in a variety of settings with companies. So that travel, that journey of mine that I went on, has led me to a place of interaction with organizations that helped folks and people with disabilities, that it gave me an opportunity to see firsthand, to work together shoulder to shoulder with people that were dedicated to providing services and to raising a level of awareness for people with disabilities. And while I was involved in those types of work, I didn't really engage in them completely until the mid-90s. In 1994, I met my wife while traveling on the road, and we soon thereafter were engaged by a nonprofit organization ministry located in Central Ohio. And I went on staff there and began my really up-close perspective of working with people with disabilities as a profession. And while I was basically in the visionary capacity of the organization, doing development work and helping to spread the news of the company, it did give me an opportunity to serve in a capacity where I was engaged in dialogue with disability leaders on a regular basis. As I stated, in 1998, my wife and I moved to Orlando, and we started our work here serving families with disabilities. Our work through Lyft has been very rewarding, but at times been very challenging. We have experienced a lot of the things that I'll be sharing with you about firsthand during the last 13, 14 years of our ministry. So with that, let me just read for you our statement, our focal statement for this particular session. There are four great giants that rule the disability life story. In order to defeat these great giants, there must be a concerted, cooperative, and committed movement of people, ministries, and organizations. The Christian community has a great opportunity before us. We have a great opportunity as leaders within the disability community to be cohesive and collaborative leaders, creating an interdependent effort that understands the importance of building connection. So, with that being said, it is my intent through this time with you that you experience, more of a dialogue of sorts, a conversation that I might have with you, rather than simply a lecture. A lot of what I want to share with you is something that has been germinating in my heart, and something that I want to help ignite in yours, to help you to see what potential might be out there if we could imagine a movement that could change the world, could change our country, can change the disability community. So the conclusions that I'm going to present to you in this presentation are more hypothetical hypothetically based, but they're based on real observations and real life experiences over scientific results. Though the solutions have real value, they can only be anecdotal at best. To truly give us answers on what we can accomplish and do, truly give us the answers, there must be a great deal of dialogue, along with ongoing research on the effects of long-term disability upon the family structure, especially from an evangelical faith perspective. My goals are very simple with this presentation. Is this: first of all, define for you what the four great giants of the disability life story are. Identify a better way of life. Secondly, thirdly, to challenge you to engage in a national movement. To challenge you to engage in a national movement. So let's begin by talking about the four great giants. Within the disability life story, there are many adversities to overcome. Through the work of Lift Disability Network, we have tried to narrow those challenges into manageable, understandable focal points. This has helped us to identify what we call four core adversaries. We will call these villains the four great giants of the disability life story. They are isolation, fatigue, poverty, and hopelessness. I believe that all of these are innate into the disability story. There is no way to go through a disability life without experiencing these four great giants. If it's truly an experience in a disability life, you're going to engage these giants at some level, in some form. The long-term effects of disability upon the family structure results in an increase of many emotional, economic, and social negative outcomes. However, the foundation of our work here at Lift has been based upon a simple fundamental belief, and that belief is that life is supreme. Life is supreme. That while disability is a part of our life story, it is not the totality of life. Disability is a part of life. I would like to disengage myself from my disability. I would like to maybe not look at my life and try to hide my disability. There's a lot of things that people do to try to distance themselves from this experience, but in all reality, it has a part in the life of Jim Huckel. There is a part in my life. It is part of who I am. I roll into a room. I can't deny that I have a wheelchair. I can't leave it at the door. I can't leave it back home. If I'm going to interact with people, it's going to be a part of my story. Disability plays a part, but it is not who I am in my entirety. My life is made up of many parts. My life has a lot of different dynamics. My life has a lot of pieces that have nothing to do with my disability. I am a husband. I am a leader. I have responsibilities. I do. I have friendships. I am a mentor. I have people that I try to teach. There are a lot of places and a lot of aspects to my life. The problem is that there is this insatiable activity of disability to continually draw us to it, to where that's all we think about, all we work on, all we work around. Everything is based upon this big elephant in the room called disability. So as we've done our work through LIFT, what we've tried to do is to make the base statement that life is first and life is supreme. And what our goal is, as leaders, as ministers, as ministries, people who care, is to put disability in an appropriate, proper place, and to maintain that position so that we can focus on what's really life, what's really important, and that's life. Jesus said that he came to this world to give us life, and to give it to us in a overabundant manner. That means that life has the capacity to consume everything else, and that we can literally be excited about the life that we live. Now, having said that, we know that it is the work of these giants to seek to keep the focus on disability, and to limit and to set the limits and set limits upon life. As faith leaders, we are compelled to assist our clients, our families, our friends, to put disability in that appropriate, proper place throughout this life experience. To accomplish that, we must understand where the giants are, who they are, and their impact upon our life. So let's get started with that. 4 great giants. Isolation. It was interesting to me that as I was looking through this several months ago, that someone had put out through some Facebook venues a question about, do people within the disability community face isolation? If so, tell us their story. It was amazing, the results of people that responded to that simple question about isolation. Everywhere you look in the disability story, isolation plays a part. I dare say, I suggest to you today that the most formidable of all the giants is isolation. People get cut off from their community, cut off from their churches, cut off from the relationships that were once important to them. They get cut off from family members. Isolation begins to build its walls immediately upon the initial moments of the disability story. It comes through misunderstanding. It comes through a lack of social education. People, individuals and leaders, we work very hard to bring awareness to our community. And the reason that awareness is something that we stress and work at is because isolation cuts people off. People aren't connected to what's going on. We spend a great deal of time in the faith community just raising awareness, trying to get the church to reconnect. I'll just say that about that particular thing. I believe that you and I are the church, and I think that every time we point our finger at the institutionalized church, we must understand that we are part of what we are pointing to. Therefore, if we're out there working, the church is working. And I want to encourage you with that statement, because it can seem as though we're not getting anywhere with our awareness and with our education. But I in fact believe that there are a number of people that, given the opportunity, they would invest themselves greatly into the disability ministry and mission. Isolation has its effect upon us for several reasons, many of which are reasons of transportation. We don't have the means to get where we need to. There are complications with that. We have lives that other people don't understand. We have illnesses that keep us from being able to engage and interact and move about in the community. So we are put in positions where we spend an awful lot of time by ourselves. And it's my hope that in just a few short moments that you'll begin to see that the potential of erasing and eradicating isolation is very probable. The second great giant is the giant of fatigue. This occurs because of isolation oftentimes, because as people who are engaged in dealing with the everyday effort of trying to just live, we fight the battle of that's so great we become tired and weary in fighting that battle. Fatigue sets in because we're in the trenches by ourselves and we're working hard. Now this particular giant became obvious and apparent to me not only through observing the lives of other people, but through my own personal life and how my wife and I deal with disability. What we've discovered is there are moments in which it's imperative that we find rest, that we find times when we can break away from the disability. Now, for me, that's almost impossible because I deal with it every day and I can't run away from it. For those that care for me, it is probable and possible, but I must give them permission to do that. And often caregivers are not given the permission that they need to find the rest that they need, whether that's from the person they are caring for or from themselves. They don't give themselves permission. So the fatigue factor begins to creep in when the load that we're carrying is just so great that we can't stand up against it. It is in that we need partners, but our partners are absent because of the isolation. My wife and I, we try hard to give her times of vacation where she can rest. That vacation is not possible without the assistance of other people. So you can see the effect that this catch-22 that occurs as a result of this disability life. Thirdly is the giant of poverty. I mean to give this a very broad definition. However, it is important to see it in two lights. The first being that it has a major economic impact upon us. We lose our jobs. We can't work anymore because of our disability. We fall into fixed incomes. parents have multiple and building mounts of medical expenses that they can't seem to overcome. It's a proven fact, and matter of fact, some of the new U.S. censuses are showing that our community, a great deal of our community, live in poverty. Our unemployment rate is more than double that of the normal community. The poverty rate is at least 1/3 of our community lives in poverty. Another third lives at the poverty level, and only 1/3 of our community actually has some sense of financial achievement in them. So we are fighting a strong economic giant that is overcoming our community. With that comes a sense of not having what we need in order to overcome our adversity. So we find ourselves with empty hands, nothing left to work with. This takes brings into light the second piece of this poverty that's so important. That's the impoverishment of the soul, where you feel like you have nothing left to work with. You have nothing, no resources. Your energy's depleted. You can't seem to overcome things because there's just nothing there to work with. You become impoverished. Friends, that's where we as believers have a distinct advantage. You see, we know that what we have is never enough. But Jesus came and he gave his life. He offered himself and he bridged the gap and became enough for us. When my hands are empty, his are not. When my resources are depleted, his are not. Jesus came to give those that were poor an opportunity to live in the King's palace. Poverty is a really difficult giant to overcome. It is a driver of a barrier into the life of families. You see, isolation doesn't just occur on the outside of our family walls. It occurs on the inside of our family. Poverty is often that piece that raises those walls. We find dads that are engaged in multiple sources to build income for their family. As a result, they're working and they're disengaging they're disengaging to their families because they're so busy trying to make ends meet. Mom becomes a caregiver and she becomes impoverished because she's so weary in doing the care of her family. And this great giant of poverty raises its head. And once it does, once it begins to take a hold, it begins to have the end result, or the fourth giant, become established within our families, and that is hopelessness. I don't have what it takes. I can't make it. The ability to rise above the adversity becomes too great, and I soon become to realize there is no future, there is no hope, there's nothing ahead of us. Now I know that sounds very dark, very scary, and for many folks that's exactly the end that it comes to. But there are answers to hopelessness. There are ways to rise above it. And that's what I want to talk about in our remaining time together. It's a better way of life. And I'm going to give you just what I believe is a real simple, practical way to overcome hopelessness, poverty, fatigue, and isolation. I believe the answer to all that is a helpful hand. I believe it's a hand that will be invested into relationship and into the lives of those who are in need. Whether that's you or me in my journey through disability life. We in our work at Lyft, we have began to implement what we call the 3 L's: love, learn, and lead. We unite to love, we connect to learn, and we empower to lead. The reason we have started with this concept is because we believe that in order to overcome these giants, relationship becomes paramount. We must become people that are engaged in a community movement of relationship. Relationship can help us to overcome the hopeless spirit. I remember as a young boy laying in the ground looking at all the other guys run off and leave me. One of the things that I got to experience in that moment was the hands of my dad. When he would reach down and pick me up, and he'd brush me off, and he would lean across my shoulder and he would say, "Jim, you can't ever quit, son. You got to keep trying." And through those moments, my dad taught me the way to overcome hopelessness was through a helpful hand. In fact, I learned that my position in life is subject to my partners. Partners would always trump my weak position. And so we believe that there is the key to overcoming these giants is a ability for us to live through a better lifestyle, and that is becoming connected with each other, learning how to lend a hand, learning how to empower a hand to do and to be people in this community. Now, Jesus began to teach us that very early on. Whenever he began his ministry, the first few days of his ministry, Jesus literally compelled other men to come along with him in that process. And he worked with them and through them, and they joined together in this great mission of life. And somehow we have moved away from that, especially within the disability leadership movement. We as professionals who work with people with disabilities, it is important that we realize that while we are energized by our compassionate care, our advocacy, and our awareness, we must find ways to bring this community together. They need to see models that this is possible. It is indeed, they need to have vision casters that allow them to see that it's actually possible for them to have the relationships that they need to overcome these great giants. It is in my opinion that the Christian community has a great opportunity before us right now. We have an opportunity for us to come together as cohesive leaders, collaborative leaders, creating an interdependence of organizations that understand the importance of building models of connection. Unfortunately, however, in dealing with ministries throughout the last 2 decades, I have seen agencies and organizations, ministries, that are not often found working in tandem with each other. I bring this up because if the disability family is finding it difficult to connect, how much more complex is this problem for them when those that are here to serve them are not locking arms together? We must be organizations, leaders, and agencies, and people of faith that live under a different standard, in a different engagement, a better way of life. Let me share with you just a few ideas that I have been kind of germinating that I think will help transform our disability community. First of all, as organizations, as leaders, as people who are visionary, we must be individuals who share what we have. The beginning place is to simply take what you have and give it away. That's why I love so much the Infusion Inclusion Summit, because I see this as an opportunity for us to come together and to share ideas and thoughts and give away our wealth of knowledge, our understanding, to participate together by giving up what we have. And in order for us to do that, that means we have to lay down our competitive spirits, to lay down this concept or idea that we act like the rest of the world. We are not like the rest of the world. We are God's people. And the vision and the mission is so great that it requires us to work together. It requires us to do ministry together. And so I'd like to suggest to you that the way we do this is, first of all, to share what we have, to give our knowledge, to give our time, our resources, to help other ministries complete their work and to do their work, to tear down the walls that keep us separated. Secondly, as we do that, I think that the next step is for us to lock arms through dialogue and through information, sharing ideas, lock arms in working together to accomplish work, to find ways that we can be examples to the community, that they can see that the organizations see something much bigger picture, a much bigger picture than just what they are trying to accomplish on their own. Which brings me to the third way that we can exemplify this better life, and that is through the creation of collaborative projects. Actually choosing projects and working together. You see, when two small organizations come together to accomplish a project together, they become stronger. They are able to do what they could not do standing alone. And so it becomes imperative that we find a way to do collaborative projects. Now, this has been very fundamental in my life to understand. I cannot accomplish anything without other people. And so if I want to pick up a pen or pencil off the floor, it's going to take me building a collaborative effort with someone else. You understand what I'm saying? We must be people that engage other people, other organizations, other ministries in projects that require us to have help, require us to have people at our side, engaging in collaborative projects. And finally, I want to challenge you to join missions that are in a mission that is bigger than your own. We become so focused upon our own ministries, our own projects, that we often forget about what other people are doing. We become isolated ourselves. The interesting thing is that as I've looked through all of these giants, they don't just occur in the family, they occur in the community and even in the world of ministry. There are each of us, each leader, each person that's done care can say at some point or another we've felt isolated, alone in the ministry we're doing. We have felt like we're overwhelmed and fatigued and maxed out, that we simply cannot keep doing the work that we're doing because we cannot find strength to do it. We've found ourselves in a place where our resources are depleted and we're impoverished, so there's no way that we can accomplish our goals because our ministries just reach a point where they hit a limit. The need is too great. And in that moment, we as leaders have found our own times of hopelessness and we've given up. But I believe that if we join in a larger vision, a larger mission, then we can accomplish great things. And that's what I want to leave you with today in a challenge. A challenge that there is a big mission. There are over 54 million Americans in this country that have disabilities. And if you put each of them in the family of 3 or 4, you're going to find an enormous explosion of the number of people that are impacted by disability on a daily basis. Not to mention the professionals and the friends that are engaged on the circumference of this group of people. We have an enormous mission, and that's to bring life into a community that needs to see the miraculous opportunities that life brings and presents. My folks were told that I would never walk a day in my life. They were told that I would live to be 10. That breathing would always be one of my biggest adversaries. I have sung professionally. I've shared with large organizations because someone believed that the giant was not so big if we just simply worked against it. The mission was too big. I had a friend come in to speak with me recently. He had been wounded by the acts of a ministry. He didn't like some decisions that had been made, and so he was very wounded by those decisions. And as we talked about that and discussed that, about a half hour into the conversation, I looked at him and I said, "You know, the mission is bigger than our own personal pain. The mission is bigger than our own private pain." You see, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, the mission is so big that we don't have time to worry about how our feelings have been hurt because we have work to do. We have to get busy in the mission. Once we keep our eye on the mission, then none of the other things matter. So let me help you really quickly with some ideas about a greater mission. Wouldn't it be great if we as organizations and ministries created a movement of people? A movement of people that was initiated, first of all, by a group of ministries that decided to believe in each other. A group of ministries and leaders that decided to invest in each other. That we would literally take what our resources are and give them to somebody else. Well, I know the first reaction to that one's pretty negative because we all have our resources and they seem very limited, and we want to honor them and we want to respect them, and so we put up our walls and we say, I'm willing to share a bit of information with you, but I'm not going to go that far and share my resources with you. All the time, people with disabilities are living a life of isolation, locked away in their homes, and we're worried about what we have, and we can't give it away. I'd like to suggest to you a better way of life, where the mission causes us to do things we would never think possible. Where the mission is so great that we cannot and will not live with a closed hand. What about a group of people that decides to plant seeds into new ministry? Where new ministries are developed, and we take people who have dreams and we give their dreams some empowerment by underwriting their ministries for 3 years. Making sure that they have a good start, making sure that they can accomplish some goals, giving them mentors, and creating learning environments where they can grow their thought and grow their initiatives and plant ministry in this community, in the disability world. I just think that would be awesome. I think that would be an incredible thing for us to accomplish together. What about us coming together and not just investing in ministries, but finding ways to be trendsetters? I think that we are more reactionary to disability work than we really are setting the trends of disability work, when in fact we are to be cultural changers. It's not enough for us just to be people who are meeting a need. We need to, yes, meet a need, but we also need to set the trends for new ways and innovative processes and innovative thoughts to how disability work carries out. I just think it would be amazing if, rather than us laying back and waiting for the next great thing to come along, that we actually presented the next great thing. And that's possible when people put their minds together and they believe in each other and they lock arms for a bigger cause. Well, this is just a few thoughts that I have in regards to that. I can just imagine what would happen if we were to put our heads together and believe together, pray together, watch God together, do a work that is greater than anything else we can imagine. These are just 4 of the giants. They are big, they are formidable, they are almost utterly impossible, but with God, all things are possible. I believe that with your help, I believe with your hand, me locking arms with you and you locking arms with me, we can accomplish a great deal for God's kingdom. I hope that this will stimulate some thought for you. I encourage you to connect to a larger network. Go to our website, log in and take advantage of some of the ways that you can engage. Go to Key Ministries website, engage, share your thoughts through blogs. Don't be close-fisted with your ingenuity and your ideas. Share with others. I encourage you to look at other ministries close by. If you're in a small rural area, look at a region and try to pull yourself together with other people. When we first started our ministry in 1998, one of the first things we did was create a round table, a table for discussion on disability life. And we at that time only had 2 ministries in Central Florida. Today we celebrate nearly 24 ministries serving families with disabilities, and it all started around small round table of discussion. See what happens when people start coming together? All things are possible. Jesus said that. Jesus modeled that. And now we have the opportunity to model that for our families. How incredible could it be for them to see ministries working together, leaders working together for their good? What hope could that bring? I think it would be enough to defeat giants. So I extend my hand to you today. Let's go after those giants. And let's see God raise up a mighty army of multiple people that move across this country to meet the needs of families with disabilities. Thank you. I look forward to sharing with you again. God bless.